Hi everyone, I'm Alister Benn and you're watching Expressive Photography. In this little short video I just want to highlight some of the things I've been doing while I've been here on the north coast of Spain. I've been running a private workshop for the last 10 days and as you can see I'm in a hotel here, and tomorrow we start another 10-day workshop to get to go and do it all again. We've had some fantastic weather. It's been 30+ degrees. We've been getting some beautiful morning light and evening light and have been taking full advantage of shooting in shorts and a t-shirt rather than being at home in the west coast of Scotland. I wanted to highlight in this video just a few of the features that I've been loving with my Kase filters. I did a short video on these a few months ago, just sort of highlighting the new filters that are out, which I call the sandwich filters. This is a 6-stop and a circular polarizer combined. And as you can see, if we look at a polarizer and a 10-stop filter, they are twice as thick. So really the idea not to stack filters, and with wide-angle lenses in particular, the idea of vignetting or the lack of vignetting is really, really important. So why do we need filters in the first place? I think that's one of the biggest questions, and if you're new to photography you may not know. I remember when I bought my first landscape kit and a wide-angled lens, and the guy in the camera store asked me what filters I wanted with it. I had no idea what he was talking about. And when I bought my first polarizer and ND filters, I just had to learn how to use them. And what is the point of it? Well, a circular polarizer polarizes the light, and we can see the difference between contrast with a polarizer and without a polarizer, reducing reflections or managing reflections. So polarization is one of the things that you cannot do in post-processing. You can't polarize the scene after you have taken it, so you have to do it out there in the field. And I've been using a polarizer to great effect a lot of the time while I've been here in Spain. Increasing colors, increasing saturation, reducing reflections, managing how all that stuff works. And we'll look at a few of the photographs in a moment to understand these effects. The other thing is ND filters. When water is crashing into the coastline here, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of motion, there's a lot of movement. And what we are able to do with a polarizer and an ND filter combined is actually to control the time, whether it's 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 20 seconds, or a minute or longer, to get the effect that we want. These are things, again, that we have to do at the time of capture. We cannot replicate, we can't change the time of an exposure after it's got, or after we've got home. I love to remind myself of the expression I came up with back in 2006, which is harvesting light. When we're in the landscape, we have to harvest the light. Otherwise, we get home and it's like going to the supermarket. If we want to make a steak dinner and we don't buy the steak, there's not much we can do in the kitchen when we get home. Likewise, if we want to get a photograph to show the way that water moves around rocks, or to create a very atmospheric scene using a long exposure, that's something we have to do at the time of capture. So here is a classic long exposure where we are creating a very atmospheric photograph out of quite a chaotic scene, as you can see from the accompanying video here. I am managing the amount of reflection that's coming off the rocks there and creating the amount of reflection and saturation that I want using the polarizer. Another good example, not photographing the sunrise itself, but photographing the reflection of the sunrise off of the water here. So above me are some beautiful cliffs reflecting that gorgeous golden light into the sand, and the timing of when the waves were on their way out, creating this wet sand mirror, was very, very critical, and it took quite a lot of time and error, trial and error, because the tide was actually coming in and very often the waves weren't cooperating. Damn nature. But every now and again you would get a beautiful situation here. 3-second exposure, combined 6-stop and circular polarizer, just managing that saturation and the reflection. Again, another example here of photographing the effect of the sunset and not actually showing the sunset. There hasn't been a lot of clouds in the time that we've been here over the last week or so, so it's not been very dramatic in terms of the skies, but that soft golden light the last few minutes before the sun goes over the horizon has been producing some very, very delicate and beautiful reflections. So again, I do enjoy photographing that effect and using an ND filter to create this very slow minute-long exposure to create that very, very calm scene. And finally, this is the photograph I took this morning. I had gone to try and reshoot a scene that I'd taken back in 2017, but I can't get down to the beach today because they have closed it. However, I was still able to make this quite calm and serene composition, very, very open, of course, loving my GFX 100S and the X-Pan panoramic format, and a minute exposure here, again, just to create that very, very calm and atmospheric content. The bottom line is, what do I love about these filters? Well, I love the fact they're nice and thin. I love the fact that you have a combined circular polarizer and an ND filter, which cuts out the amount of stacking of filters I have to do in front of my lenses. Of course, it doesn't really matter with a long zoom lens, but with a more wide-angled lens, not having to stack filters is always an advantage. One thing I did notice this morning actually is with a circular polarizer, typically you will, by the time you polarize a scene, you typically block about a stop and a half, between a stop and a half of light. So if I had a quarter of a second exposure, I would expect by the time I polarized it to be a half a second or so, or maybe even a little longer. What I noticed today is that a 6-stop filter will take a half-second exposure without the filter to about 30 seconds with the filter. And what I found today is that I was expecting to get about 6.5 stops of ND with a polarizer and 6-stop combined. But in actual fact, with the, which filter is it? This one here. This is 6 stops including the polarizer. So it's actually half a second becomes 30 seconds with just the 6 stops. It's 6 stops including polarization. So if I roll the polarizer off, I don't get the 30-second exposure. It's down to about 20 seconds. But anyway, that's just a little update on my Kase Revolution kit here that I've now been hammering on the west coast, north coast of Spain. Thank you very much for watching. Join me again at the weekend when I will be back in Iceland talking about the game of composition. So I hope you're going to tune in again on Sunday. But for now, I'm going to get myself ready and go and start another workshop. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.